Hello everyone, welcome to the lesson 1 of Cloud Foundry tutorial by Study9.com. My name is Suman Chakravarti. So before starting with our course, let me give a brief overview of myself. I am basically an IT administration and cloud sysops guy. Currently, I am having an overall experience of 7 years in networking, system administration, and cloud level infrastructure operations. I am certified on Infrastructure as a Service Cloud, OpenStack, and have worked for quite amount of time on different cloud platforms such as OpenStack, VMware, AWS. Alongside with that, I am having some knowledge on the DevOps as well as on the platform as a service side of the cloud model, which includes your Cloud Foundry, Pivotal, Docker, and Kubernetes. So in our today's session, we are going to cover an introduction to Cloud Foundry. So what Cloud Foundry is all about? Cloud Foundry is the open source platform as a service which manages operation. In the cloud computing world, PaaS becomes a major player. It is actually the next-gen cloud, which is often termed as NOOPS, which is the NOP operating system. So what is NOOPS? NOOPS refers to the idea of outsourcing operation roles and providing a very good way for development team to get their jobs done efficiently and in a very quick manner. So the development team no longer have to wait for another team to deploy their code. So primarily we can say there are no dependencies on which development team has to bank on, whether it is from the infrastructure team or whether it is from the server administration team for their infrastructure resources. NoOps fully removes the need for operations and development people to work in hand. So this is where we are more precisely coming into the DevOps arena. So you have heard about the DevOps technologies, tools like Chef or Puppet that become mainstream around 2010, right? So the motto of those DevOps management or configuration management, as we more precisely say, is to maintain the infrastructure more easily, primarily putting infrastructure as a code piece so that the task could be done in a very easier fashion. So this is all about PaaS, where basically we will be studying about. Though DevOps offer developers the most control and out of the cloud tools, the trade-off that you still need to spend time building and managing operations. If things goes wrong, you are still the go-to person and will be responsible for it. And so DevOps is not the ultimate answer, or we can say it's not the rising hope for the developers. Because as a developer, your ultimate goal is to spend more time to develop and innovate, isn't it? Not to write a code in Chef or Puppet or Ansible to manage operations. So Chef, Puppet and Ansible, these are configuration management tools. So here why NoOps or PaaS came into the game. With PaaS, you provide the platform infrastructure to developers who push stages and deploy the application code. This gives the developers to remain free of any dependency from the underlying infrastructure and can easily manage the life cycle of an application. So this is in the is quite visible in the picture, where PaaS acting as the middleman and is primarily helping the development team to easily manage their life cycle of their own application without having much dependency or without having to know much on the infrastructure side. So what are the benefits of PaaS? Let's go with an example. So I am giving an example with a Drupal website. The Drupal website that is going to be hit by massive traffic overnight. So this website is being served by, suppose, an e-commerce platform which is basically publish certain free offs or freebies for the customers who can actually avail the services between certain time period. And so we can very well expect that in that frame of time the traffic will be quite high, and so by logic the servers need to be expanded in order to cater to the increase in traffic. So to cope up with this, you will need to go from a single server to, let's say, 1,000 servers to handle this huge influx of new users. Before PaaS, you would need to engage a team to manually figure out how to incorporate hundreds of new servers into the process. You need to deploy the right port and take a very hands-on approach. It requires significant human intervention and it needed to be scaled with human resources. So this we can see very well in our diagram that with the surge in traffic, our servers are going to be increased to handle the incoming request from multiple users. An app lifecycle management PaaS tool like Cloud Foundry changes all this. It has this auto-scaling property based on traffic usage. You can tell it that your application needs 1,000 more instances and Cloud Foundry will do all the plumbing work. It makes the changes necessary to run those applications across your servers. It greatly simplifies the processes. So this is where actually Cloud Foundry coming into the picture and basically saving the IT operations team from a huge catastrophe, right? So our Cloud Foundry easily fits into the scenario. So now we look into what is all about Cloud Foundry. Cloud Foundry is an open source application platform for developers for deploying and developing their enterprise cloud applications. This platform caters to the needs of developers who can manage the life cycle of an application right from the staging to the deployment. So the developers are actually developing their applications on this platform, and onto the same platform they are actually deploying their piece of application code. The platform provides auto-scaling of the application, that is inherent property of the cloud model architecture based on traffic usage. Applications can be written in any language and are deployed in container images on any infrastructure. Now, who are the audience for this training? So, before going into more detail, let me tell you, since Cloud Foundry works with many programming languages like including PHP, Ruby, Node.js, Java, Python, so you should have a basic programming understanding to understand this course. I'm not telling you not so much deep into one language, but rather stay on the high level on various ones in hope that you are familiar with one or two and can read through the others. This tutorial is aimed at programmers, developers, engineers who want to know more about Cloud Foundry and Platform as a Service. This is also for architects or technical managers who are simply new to Platform as a Service and Cloud Foundry, who understand the context for which PaaS has entered the technical landscape. So let's start. Now already I have explained you what is Cloud Foundry. In this slide I will tell you what is Pivotal Cloud Foundry, because this course is also for the students who wants to apply for the Pivotal Certified Cloud Foundry Developer exam. So what is Pivotal Cloud Foundry? Pivotal Cloud Foundry is the commercialized or enterprise solution for Cloud Foundry that is owned by Pivotal Software, a joint venture made up of VMware, EMC and General Electric. Pivotal Cloud Foundry is the proven solution for companies to deliver a software-led digital transformation of cloud-native applications. It provides you the extra tools for installation and administration which are not included in open source products, right? So it's actually the Cloud Foundry with more added features and more enhanced tools to actually use the platform as a service model. So what are the key benefits of using Cloud Foundry? Application portability and auto scaling, centralized logging and platform administration, application health management, dynamic routing, integration with external logging like Elasticsearch and Logstash, infrastructure security, provision for vertical and horizontal scaling, RBAC for application deployed platform, IS support for various OEM vendors. We will come to each of these benefits in more details in our subsequent chapters. So let's deep down a little bit on the architecture part. Cloud Foundry has an open architecture that includes a build-back mechanism for adding frameworks, an application service interface, and a cloud provider interface. Basically, Cloud Foundry has two different forms of architecture to manage the application containers. Why containers? Because Cloud Foundry inherently uses container mechanism, or you can say container system, where the application is deployed. So we have two types of architecture. On my left, on the slide, you can see we have the D architecture, and on the right, it is the Diago architecture. So on the left side, you can see the D architecture is there. This applies for Cloud Foundry native and earlier releases version, basically for version 190 and less. With the D architecture, Cloud Controller schedules and manages application on the DA nodes. On the right hand side, you can see we have the Diago architecture. In the new Diago architecture, so this is the current architecture which Cloud Foundry is having. Diago components replaces the DAs and the Health Manager HM9000. It assumes application scheduling and management responsibility from the Cloud Controller. We have some dedicated chapters on this architecture, so don't worry, we will come into great details in later point of time in our tutorial. So let's see what are the use cases. The simple use case of Cloud Foundry lies in transforming an application to work in cloud platform, obeying the 12 factors and providing a microservice-based architecture that caters to loosely coupled services independent of one another. So there are a lot of companies, precisely Fortune 500 companies, which have already used Cloud Foundry for their infrastructure management and development work. They use Cloud Foundry to digitalize their applications, to reap the benefits of flexibility, agility, scalability of a cloud-rich vendor agnostic platform. For example, American Airlines adopted Cloud Foundry to deliver apps faster for the transportation and internal mobility of their customers. Similarly, Australian government has transformed service delivery with Cloud Foundry platform. So we are now almost at the end of a chapter 1. Here I am listing out the topics that we are going to cover in our tutorial. In this chapter, Cloud Foundry overview chapter, I have already introduced the Cloud Foundry and its needs. We have seen at the beginning of this chapter how Cloud Foundry or PaaS changed developers' life. It enabled him to focus on his core talents, writing code and running his business. By removing the need of an IaaS provider, by managing the nitty-gritty of day-to-day operations, by handling glitches and crashes, PaaS is changing the lives of millions of other developers. In next chapter, I will discuss more on the Cloud Foundry overview with setup. We are going to use Pivotal Cloud Foundry PaaS setup. This will also comprise of going through an overview of cloud installation along with installing BOSS CLI client. So in the next coming chapters we will study on the Cloud Foundry architecture. Here we will give down more into the DA architecture and the DRGO architecture which we have already studied. Next we will go on how we define organizations, spaces, roles and permissions in our Cloud Foundry platform. So this is a pyramidal hierarchy where we basically provide a rollback access policy to our users. Next, we will see how we can deploy a simple application on the Cloud Foundry platform in our Cloud Foundry deploying application chapter. Next, in the Cloud Foundry CLI, we will go through some of the basic CLI commands which we normally use with our Cloud Foundry platform. Next, in the chapter logging, scaling and high availability, we will see that what are the different ways we can capture the platform logs in from our Cloud Foundry. We will see how we can easily scale up and scale down our applications as per the traffic needs and requirement, and we will basically set up a highly available environment. In our next chapter, Cloud Foundry Manifest, we will go through how we can easily write a manifest file to deploy the Cloud Foundry on our IaaS platform. On the application security group, we will see that how we can secure our Cloud Foundry platform so that we allow only those traffic that is intended to in our platform. In the logging and metrics section, we will see that how easily it can be integrated with different third-party applications on a Cloud Foundry to measure the metric or the usage of the CPU, RAM, memory of the applications inside a Cloud Foundry platform. Next, in the managed and user provided services section, we will study how we can easily define a service that can be used alongside with an application that can be either a user provided service or it can be a managed service from the platform side itself. On a Cloud Foundry Blue deployment, we will see that how the developers uses Cloud Foundry to easily update from one release to another release with minimal downtime on the application side. On the Cloud Foundry root services, we will basically see how we can create different routes and tag to each of our applications so that we can create a fallback as and when required. On the Cloud Foundry application autoscaler and application performance monitor, we will see some of the open source products that we can easily integrate and rip off the benefits on the Cloud Foundry platform. On the Cloud Foundry build packs, we will see that what are the different kind of dependencies or required packages that our application uses to deploy on a Cloud Foundry platform. So build packs are nothing but the required dependencies such as a Java framework, a .NET framework, which actually compiles with the application code to create a droplet. We will see more into this, so don't worry, we will cover more onto this. This will be a little bit more complex, so let's understand up to this how what are build packs. Next, on the Cloud Foundry continuous delivery, we will see how we can integrate our modern CI/CD tools such as Jenkins, Bamboo with a Cloud Foundry to provide a continuous delivery approach. All this on a Pivotal Cloud Foundry setup that we'll be having. So these are all the topics that we are going to cover in our next upcoming tutorials. And I feel that a theoretical session won't be much fruitful unless we have some hands-on lab session. So we already have a set of topics that we will be going through, and this will be specifically targeted for our lab work, or we can say more on the system rather than on the theoretical part. So here we'll be covering how we can set up a BOSS director. We'll see BOSS director is basically the resource or the component in the Cloud Foundry architecture that orchestrates deployment of the Cloud Foundry stack onto an IS platform. We'll see installing BOSS CLI tool and installing CF-CLI tool, and then we will see how we can easily set up the BOSH and the CF releases on our platform, so that there are different kind of Cloud Foundry releases, and we will basically study one of the release and see what are the features that we can have from the Cloud Foundry platform. Next, we will go through a deployment of our sample application, as I already told you in my previous section. So that will be a Spring Cloud, and how we can easily manage the life cycle of the application through a CF-CLI. Next, we will go and use the auto scaling feature of the application. We will basically use the auto scaler third-party open source application tool that will be configuring with our Cloud Foundry and basically using it to scale up and scale down our containers. Next, we will use application log management that will be doing another through a third-party management tool. Next, we will go on the Cloud Foundry organization spaces, roles and user creation, where we will see how we can easily create a secure hierarchy of a space, an isolated environment that our developers can use without intermingling or without work being shared by other developers. Next, we will go and do a small practical on setting up the user provided services on a Cloud Foundry platform. With this, I am finishing our first chapter on this Cloud Foundry tutorial. Thank you all for joining onto this section.